We actually did look up, tell us a little bit more about actual astronaut training, because they are calling themselves astronauts.
Yeah.
And in Gail's defense, she says, I still have trouble calling myself that, but she does. But she worked her way through it.
She overcame.
Okay, here's a couple of the things. All right, there's spacewalk training in NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. You study the space station systems. Flying a T-38 jet. All of this is part of some astronaut training. Okay, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to possess a master's degree in a STEM field, including engineering, biological science, physical science, computer science, or mathematics. I'm pretty sure that does not apply to Gail, Katie, or Lauren Sanchez. But okay, Lauren Sanchez is a pilot. I'll give her that. She flies helicopters. You do have to have at least 1,000 hours pilot in command time, or 2 years of related professional experience. Perfect visual acuity. Blood pressure not to exceed 140/90. Standing height between 5'2" and 6'2". Excellent physical condition. So actually Lizzo is out. And then you have to, after you get selected by NASA, they report for training, and then they spend the next 2 years, not 2 days, like those morons in Blue Origin touted about their intensive training. 2 years learning basic astronaut skills like spacewalking, operating the space station, flying T-38 jet planes, and controlling a robotic arm. You have to complete military water survival before beginning your flying syllabus. You have to become scuba qualified to prepare for spacewalk training. You are exposed to problems associated with high hyperbaric and low hypobaric atmospheric pressures in the altitude chambers to learn to deal with emergencies associated with these conditions. And astronaut candidates are given exposure to the microgravity of space flight during flights in a modified jet aircraft as it performs parabolic maneuvers. That's what we did. Hello, I'm an astronaut, just like I said. It's not learning how to buckle your seatbelt.
Right. But look, those are just requirements. Nowhere in there do they talk about the qualities. You need a measure of patience, right? You also need a measure of humility.
Yes.
That's impossible to quantify. I wrote a story a few years ago for my podcast, not about Neil Armstrong, but about Buzz Aldrin, who, of course, was the second man.
The lesser known.
Yes. And he told a little parenthetical tale that really stuck with me years ago about the time that he had to wait and just the place you go mentally, right? And then the fact that all of a sudden he's got to pee. He really has to pee. And as Neil Armstrong is literally taking one small step for mankind, Buzz is just filling his special little
container.
Stadium Pal, right?
Okay. Oh, Stadium Pal, got it.
With urine. And so, there's where do you put that in the no one writes about that. No
but
one
you do want
thinks
to know
about that. But that's also what being an astronaut is. Sometimes you just have to stand quietly by after hours and hours and hours of patience while somebody else gets all the glory, and you pee your pants.
I mean, this is like a theme when you come on that we talk about bathroom and toilet issues.
It worked well last time.
Let's be honest. It's the other function that you'd really be dreading with all of the NASA controllers watching. When
you think about zero gravity and the effect that could have on the lower GI tract and the immediate results after an evacuation, I would have liked to have seen more of that in this trip, just to really balance it out, right? So you've got the glamour,
bring it home,
and you've got the excitement, but just to remind people that we're all put together the same basic way. You just get little pieces of scat floating through the air. Right?
I don't think Sarah will mind me telling you that was her greatest fear, because she said when she gets really nervous or scared, sometimes she has a GI issue.
Well, when you're in zero gravity, that's everybody's greatest fear.
No one would turn away.
Yeah.
Poor Jake, I'd have to give hazard pay to. It was bad enough he had to risk his life.
But you know what? Back to my days as a fighter pilot. I'm not when I talk about humility, when you're in the back of that thing. And this was a private flight. They were spoiling me because I was hosting a show in San Francisco, and they wanted to show me the entire maneuvers of the Blue Angel experience. So I'm strapped into the back of this thing, and the captain tells me, look, he said, Mike, I've got 2 goals, and I'm going to be candid with you. 3, really. First, I'd like to make you pass out. Secondly, I'm going to make you throw up.
What?
And third, we're leaving with a full tank of gas, or we're going to come back on empty. And I'm going to show you everything from barrel rolls to the Immelman to all these great Red Baron type maneuvers. And I didn't pass out because I knew the Hick maneuver.
Oh.
The Hick maneuver. So when you start pulling G's, like 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I'm aware of the G's.
You understand. As an astronaut,
yeah,
of course,
I got it.
You understand this. what's happening is the blood in your brain is being pulled down into your extremities, and you've got to get the blood back in your brain. So what you do is you grab the sides of your seat and you pull up hard, and you dig your heels into the ground, and then you make this sound. You go, hey, hey.
Really?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, you aren't. You're going to be amazing.
I'm in.
So all of that hicking and all of that pulling and all of that pushing gets the blood back into your brain, and it keeps you from passing out. Now, a great pilot can do that simply by going, because that's a muscle that you build up.
Just
That's
to quickly interject,
muscle.
the folks who you see standing on that zero gravity flight are people who work for zero gravity.
Sure.
And they've done it so many times, they're not affected by it the way you or I would be.
Right. Now, with regard to nausea, there's not a damn thing you can do. When this guy comes out of a barrel roll and you're hicking and you're pulling like 11 Gs, and then you're over the farallons and he flips the plane upside down and you're breaking the sound barrier and you're about 100 feet over the water, and through the plexiglass dome over your head in an upside down inverted position, you can see the sonic concussions making the ocean pop. And it's at that moment that you vomit onto the plexiglass.
Ew.
And then he flips the plane back upside down, and you sit there, Megyn, hicking, trying not to pass out as your own vomit drips onto your head.
Sounds horrible.
It's the essence of humility, and it's what I meant before. Until you've sat there quietly contemplating your own choices in life. While
vomit rain.
Yes, your vomit. That's important.
Yeah.
Not somebody else's.
That's better.
But your
That's
own.
better. I'd rather be under my own, I think.
It's the stuff of character.
Wait a minute. So now, with the benefit of hindsight, did you enjoy that ride?
Oh, my God. Well, yes. I mean, it's a tricky question. And first of all, it's not a ride.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I would think you, of all people, would be aware.
Not a ride.
That was an adventure.
It was a mission.
And it wasn't just about me. It was for all mankind.
Yes,
okay?
I can understand the sacrifice.
But I'll tell you that I didn't enjoy it, but I loved it.
Like, you're glad you did it.
Oh, my God. So I'm so glad.
Well, because here's what happened to me when I was on the zero G. The first two are lunar. First three were like lunar gravity, which is not the full zero gravity.
Yeah.
So your whole body doesn't levitate up to the ceiling, but you do levitate a little. And I was fine. But the one rule they gave us is when you're in between the parabolas, you lie down, and they said, do not lift your head. If you lift your head against the G's, you are going to get sick.
Yep.
So, of course, I smushed myself down. I'm like, okay, I'm not letting that happen. Well, there was one parabola where the one guy was like, okay, get up. And we tried, but we couldn't. So he had mistaken that it was time to levitate, and it wasn't. And I did lift my head. And from that point forward, they were right. I felt like I was going to hurl. And I didn't, thank God. But halfway through that exercise, even though I still had fun, I was very worried that I was going to throw up.
Now, what you had there was what the doctors call premature levitation.
Yeah.
And this can be awkward and embarrassing.
Especially as you get older.
Right. You think you know yourself. Next thing, that's not supposed to be like that now.
But how could you enjoy being in an F-18?
Yeah.
Like when you have thrown up, you feel nauseous, and he keeps going.
Well, look, first of all, if you're me, like if you're the dirty jobs guy and you're in that position, you have one job, and it's to not complain. That's your only job. So I wasn't about to do that. But I also, like, if you see the Blue Angels up close doing those maneuvers, it's awesome in the literal sense of the word. They're inches from each other, going 600-700 miles an hour.
God.
All coordinated. It's a dance, and the stakes couldn't be higher. And these guys are so finely trained. It's almost like a kind of singularity between human and machine, and it's a wonder to watch it. You know,
What you're saying, about not complaining is, of course, one of the main reasons that we're targeting them is their just foolishness in messaging around the whole thing. So they went from self-aggrandizement to now complaining about the audience's reaction. And one of the lines on our mugs or in our hats is, have you been? Because Gail, in response to the criticism, tried to shut up all of America by saying you can't criticize her unless you've been.
Right.
Which is why we went. Now I've been, and it's on. Under her own rules, it's on, sister. I've now been. You're fair game, and I find you even more absurd than I did before.
Well, look, not to pile on, but
No, please do.
Okay, in a way, you're you're working on a show called People You Shouldn't Know.
Yes.
Because really, in the end, it feels like we're surrounded by examples of good behavior, bad behavior, self-indulgent behavior, selfless behavior, whatever it is. And I loved that story. I loved watching it because ultimately I thought it was a teachable moment.
Sure.
Not for them, but really the audience does now have an opportunity to really think objectively and candidly about what did we just see? What are we celebrating? Why are we celebrating it? Why are we being told this was important? And what are we to make of it? And if you're me, trying to figure out how to navigate what's left of my career in this insane universe, it's like, well, do I want to focus on those people or these people? And there's no right or wrong answer, but it was just really fun watching what you just did and thinking about the difference between the people you were lampooning and the people I've been lucky enough to feature on shows like Dirty Jobs.
Celebrating. Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. And volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless five-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped so many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it, and at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.